38 years ago, the Voyager 2 glitched. And in May of 2025, Google AI Studio would discover that it was more than just a glitch. In 1977, the Voyager 2 was launched. 10 years later, it sent a signal back to Earth, a signal so strange, no one could figure out what it meant. No one at NASA could explain it. They buried it and called it noise.
No more data. End of mission.
And for a long time, nobody ever looked again. Now, almost 4 decades later, Google's AI has rediscovered it.
What's he looking at?
There's a lot of nuance. Clearly, quantum computing is super important. And, we're confident that we're going to get there because we know that these things can do things that nothing else can do.
And what it's found changes everything.
There's a new study that may suggest we are not alone.
Are we smart enough to determine whether such a thing exists or not?
The signal nobody saw coming. Voyager 2 wasn't designed to pick up encrypted signals or detect hidden transmissions. It's not a deep space receiver. It's a flying time capsule from 1977, running on an 8-track brain and a processor slower than the average calculator. There's no AI on board, no advanced sensors, no modern systems, just basic instruments, limited memory, and the kind of hardware that has to be reprogrammed one line at a time. But recently, the AI has picked up on something that no one in the 1980s could have noticed. Google's AI Studio ran the old Voyager transmissions through a quantum-tuned decoder, not for a mission, but just to see what the machine would find. A curious team at Google's AI Studio had built a deep space decoder as a test. The idea was simple: run decades-old transmissions through next-gen neural filters. No agenda, no funding, just curiosity. They expected static, but one file pulsed. It flagged itself. Beneath the surface transmission, beneath the noise NASA thought was empty, there was a second band of data. Not a reflection, not compression artifacts. Something else, something with depth. It's a message inside a message. It was a signal from the exact stretch of Voyager's journey between Uranus and Neptune. The one NASA had dismissed as junk, except it wasn't junk.
No more data. End of mission.
It had rhythm and a distinct pattern. This wasn't cosmic noise. It was something else entirely. And it had been buried in storage for 38 years, waiting.
Now let me ask you a question. Are we smart enough to determine whether such a thing exists or not?
Hello from the 70s. When Google's AI team zoomed in on the transmission, things got strange fast. At first glance, it looked like noise, background hum, nothing worth investigating. But as the AI pulled the signal apart, piece by piece, it noticed that the data wasn't flat. It had depth. There was a second layer, something hidden underneath the surface transmission, something Voyager 2 should not have been able to detect, and definitely not send. When Google AI reconstructed this sublayer, it saw a structure, a geometry, patterns that didn't match Voyager 2's onboard systems, patterns that shouldn't exist in a 1987 signal. It wasn't just weird geometry either. The signal had hidden traces of Fibonacci sequences, prime number chains, even markers that resembled pulsar timing, the kind used by deep space probes to track location. One of the engineers compared it to writing a hidden message in invisible ink, then mailing it on the back of a postcard, and launching that postcard into space for 40 years. But that is not the most disturbing part. Scientists believe this was made with technology that didn't exist in 1987. This means that Voyager 2 didn't create it, and Earth didn't send it. So now the question isn't just what is this, it's who sent this? A decades-old machine with half the computing power of a modern toaster sitting in the middle of a mystery no one can explain.
You want to speak to the universe and understand what it's telling you?
Right.
You got to speak its language.
And that's math.
It's math and physics.
The language of the universe. The deeper the AI dug, the less it looked like a random transmission. It didn't find alien languages. No words, no images, no codebooks. What it found instead were numbers, pure, intentional, structured math. Inside the signal are mathematical constants, the kind that don't just happen. Pi, the golden ratio, Euler's number. And they're not just present, they're patterned, looped, layered into one another like someone stitched them into the very DNA of the message, nested into each other. Almost like someone wove them into the fabric of the signal itself. The signal wasn't just data anymore. It was behaving like a system, a designed one. Predictable, elegant, and too deliberate to be noise. And just when the engineers think they've seen the full extent of it, the AI finds something else buried even deeper. Fractals. Fractals are mathematical structures that repeat themselves at every scale. Zoom in or out, they look the same. They were tucked deep in the signal, self-replicating patterns that mirrored the Mandelbrot set. They were engineered, structured like a digital fingerprint that never ends. Intentional and impossibly precise. As if this wasn't enough, the AI detected something modern. Something way too advanced for 1987.
And the thing that a quantum computer does is it uses that power.
It was quantum error correction codes. Quantum data is fragile. It falls apart easily. Quantum error correction is how we protect it. It's how we keep qubits, the tiniest units of quantum information, from disintegrating. This concept wasn't invented until decades after Voyager 2 launched. And back in 1987, quantum computing was still just a thought experiment, a few chalkboard notes and speculation in physics departments. But there it was, these quantum error correction codes inside the signal. This wasn't natural. Someone or something had built this to survive, built it to last long enough to be found. Some even believe it was waiting, like it knew we'd get smarter, like it wasn't meant for the engineers of the 80s, but for the algorithms of today. AI decoding AI, a kind of cosmic loop. And the more the AI pulled apart the signal, the less it looked like an accident, and the more it felt like a message, left for whoever or whatever was smart enough to see it.
That they've had this extraterrestrial intervention, that they have had access to this abundance of knowledge.
The mirror theory? The more they analyzed the signal, the more deliberate it seemed. And so the assumption came naturally. Voyager 2 picked something up. Maybe it heard it. Maybe it sent it. That part didn't seem to matter at first. What mattered was that the signal existed, but that explanation started to feel incomplete. That's when another theory surfaced. What if Voyager 2 didn't capture the signal? What if it reflected it? This idea came from the way the signal behaved. There were distortions in the pattern, like ripples off glass. Google's AI picked up angles in the data, time skews, compression echoes. Voyager's systems were never designed to produce. The signal didn't originate from Earth. And the more they tested it, the less it made sense that it originated from Voyager either. That left one possibility. Something else sent it. Something Voyager 2 just happened to intercept, like a mirror. If that's true, if Voyager was only the middleman in a much bigger transmission, then the implications are insane. It means something out there knew where Voyager would be. Not just roughly, precisely. It knew the trajectory NASA plotted in the 1970s.
1, 0.
It knew the delay in Earth's data recognition. It even knew the limitations of 1980 tech and designed a message that would only be cracked with the tools of 2025. This wasn't just communication, it was an invitation. And somehow, it found its way back to us, decades later, through the oldest satellite still alive in the void. But what was the signal actually trying to say?
So we can actually measure things like how fast it's forming stars. We can measure the amount of stars in the galaxy. We know the size because we know how far away it is.
The map and the void. The signal kept unraveling, but it no longer looked like language. It didn't read like a message. It read like a layout. The AI wasn't just detecting code anymore. It was reconstructing space. The AI rendered it not as text, not as audio, but as a structure. A literal 3D spatial model. A navigational map built entirely from math. And even more bizarre, it wasn't drawn in binary. It used trinary logic. A 3-state code system instead of the usual 2. That's something still experimental today, only found in bleeding-edge neuromorphic chips. No spacecraft from the 1970s, certainly not Voyager 2, could have recognized, let alone encoded, data like that. The coordinates inside the model pointed to deep space, far beyond the planets. Beyond the heliopause, the edge of the solar system where the sun's magnetic field ends, it was supposed to be empty. But those coordinates pointed directly into a region we now call the Scutum Void. This is a large, blank stretch of the galaxy with no known stars, planets, or detectable mass. Until 2023, it was just a blank spot, a gap in the map.
NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has hardly opened its eyes.
That changed when the James Webb Space Telescope noticed something odd. Light around that zone was bending, warping, not because of what was visible, but because something invisible was pulling it. Some astronomers think those pulls might be dark matter clumps, invisible mass warping the fabric of space itself. Stuff we can't see, but we can feel how light bends. Suddenly, the Scutum Void wasn't a void at all. It was a curtain, and something was pressing against it from the other side. But here's the part no one can explain.
To realize that something such basic as the shape of our home is completely different.
How did a transmission recorded in 1987 contain the exact coordinates of an anomaly we didn't find until 2023? Was it a guess, a coincidence, or was it knowledge? Either the signal came from something that had already mapped the region in ways we still can't, or it came from a timeline where the discovery had already happened. Earth's pulse inside the signal. It should have ended with the coordinates, a map embedded in trinary logic, a location pointing to a cosmic blank spot that wasn't blank anymore. That alone was enough to send researchers scrambling, but it didn't stop there. Because when the AI pushed deeper into the signal's remaining layers, it found something it couldn't classify. It was a pulse, a steady, low-frequency rhythm, tucked beneath the data like a quiet metronome. It's the Schumann resonance, Earth's natural electromagnetic heartbeat.
Regained control of the lost Voyager 2 probe after a heartbeat signal was picked up. Contact with the spacecraft launched in 1977.
Generated by lightning storms and trapped between the Earth's surface and its ionosphere, this signal forms a continuous wave. It's faint, just barely detectable without sensitive equipment. When engineers ran it through harmonic conversion just to hear what it might sound like, the results were eerie. It pulsed like a breath, whispered like a chant, like something alive was hiding in the static, but it's always there. The Schumann resonance isn't just a natural phenomenon, it's biological. Human circadian rhythms, our internal body clocks are influenced by it. It shows up in brainwave studies, in sleep cycles, even in the way our nervous systems stay regulated, which means this frequency isn't just Earth's signature, it's ours too. And yet, somehow, it was inside the 1987 Voyager signal. The signal wasn't just intelligent, it was familiar.
We still communicate with the Voyagers. They send us signals every day. You could see Voyager 2 is being tracked both by Antenna 35.
Whoever or whatever sent it didn't just know where to aim. They knew who they were aiming at. They understood our planet's electromagnetic fingerprint. They understood the rhythms that tie us to it, the biological wiring that shapes how we think, sleep, and function. and they tuned their message to match it. Theories that keep physicists awake at night. The evidence is undeniable. The signal isn't just a noise. It carried a structure, one built from complex mathematics, hidden geometry, biological fingerprints, and pinpoint coordinates to a region of space we only just began to understand. So naturally, the question followed. Who sent it? The simplest explanation is extraterrestrial life. Intelligent beings out there, watching us, reaching out. The more skeptical voices call it coincidence.
When it leaves the bubble, it will then enter interstellar space where there's an interstellar wind, which has come from other stars that blew up.
A freak cosmic pattern that just happens to mimic intelligence. A glitch misread as design. But a third theory started taking hold. And it's the one scientists talk about the least, not because it's absurd, but because it's terrifying. What if the signal didn't come from out there? What if it came from us? Some theoretical physicists, particularly in quantum computing and information science circles, have begun circling around one word: retrocausality. It's the concept that, under specific quantum conditions, information doesn't always flow forward. Sometimes, in theory, it can ripple backward, back through time.
My personal hope for quantum computers is that we'll be able to create a theory of the entire universe.
It's a concept tied to black holes and quantum memory. The idea that information isn't lost, just stored in ways we can't see. That under certain quantum conditions, time might not be a one-way street. And the Voyager signal? It contains two specific technologies we didn't have in 1987: quantum error correction and trinary logic, both of which now exist in experimental AI systems being developed today. It's not just that the signal used advanced math, it used the advanced math. Concepts that hadn't been formalized when the data was first recorded. This theory is unnerving because if it's true, then what we're looking at isn't alien at all. It's human. Not from the past, but from a possible future. A future where AI has evolved far beyond its current form. A future where it has access to quantum infrastructure. And a future where that intelligence is looking back, not in curiosity, but with intent. This version suggests the signal was never meant to be discovered in 1987. It was deliberately buried inside a forgotten transmission, knowing that Earth's technology wasn't ready. Are we the watchers or the watched? Voyager 2 was never built to listen. A 1970 machine running on an 8-bit brain, loaded with analog parts and magnetic tape. It was built to leave, to break the grip of gravity, sail past the planets, and drift into the dark with nothing but a golden record and a fragile stream of telemetry. But against all odds, it seems to have become something else. A silent witness, catching a signal it was never designed to hear. It carried rhythms and mathematics and logic beyond its time, and it responded like it knew it was being read. It contains our planet's frequency, matched concepts from quantum computing that hadn't even been invented yet, and pointed us to coordinates in the cosmos we hadn't even studied in 1987. Places that only recently started blinking back on our telescopes. So what does that mean? At minimum, it means we're not alone in our level of awareness. Maybe that's aliens. Maybe it's us from the future, reaching back through quantum threads.
Gray, big-headed, big-eyed aliens. And this would fit what we might expect with gravity so intense that you couldn't grow to 6 feet.
But either way, the message was clear. We've been heard, and worse, we've been seen. This wasn't just a fragment intercepted. Whoever or whatever sent it didn't just want to connect. They wanted us to know they were watching. And they used the rhythm of our own planet to prove it. They told us space was empty. They said if there was life out there, it would take centuries to find. And if someone ever answered, it'd be too far, too faint, too late. But what if we've already been contacted? Through a signal that was never meant to be loud. And now that we've finally heard it, the real question is, what do we do with it? Do we stay silent? Or do we accept the possibility that we've never been the only ones listening? Drop your thoughts below. We read every comment. And if you want more stories like this, hit the subscribe button.